Hello everyone, and before you get started in today's scheduled content, I just want to remind you that 94% of my viewers aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you aren't subscribed, go ahead and go down there and subscribe just for a brief moment before you get started with today's episode. That'd be greatly appreciated. Now back to your scheduled content. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode on the Sports Stories podcast. I'm your host, Seiji McSwain, and for today's episode, we're going to be going over my Week 7 predictions. Now, I know my Week 6 predictions didn't go up on YouTube. It just kept getting, blocked and, wouldn't upload, so I just kind of gave up on it for YouTube. But it is out on all podcast platforms, so if you do want to look at that, or you could just follow my Instagram, which is linked in the description, and you can just look at the predictions that I posted there, along with the announcement of the episode, because I did say it would be out on all platforms, but just YouTube was not uploading the video whatsoever, so I could not get it out on YouTube, but it's out on all audio platforms though. And as of right now, I am recording this really early, so it is Monday currently, so when I'm talking about the Chargers and Broncos matchups, I don't really know what's happening and what happened in both of them, so I'm just gonna be, talking about the team in general, but that'll be talked about later on in the episode. But without further ado, let's get right into these predictions. Now, first up, we have these, for Thursday Night Football, we have the Saints at the Cardinals, which is actually one of the first decent Thursday Night Football games that have been on Amazon Prime. Except for the Chargers and Chiefs one. Now the Saints coming into this one had a tough loss to the Bengals, a really close one. They did really well, in my opinion. Now I believe as for this game, it does have a little bit riding on it, for the Saints, on the Saints' perspective. I believe that, if Andy Dalton does do good this game, they may run with him as the starter for the rest of the season, because Jameis Winston has been sidelined with an injury, with a back injury. So they were running with Andy Dalton. Sorry, and he's been doing decent. He hasn't really been doing much, but I guess he's been doing enough to really be able to have be a considerable option over Jameis Winston. I mean, the Saints didn't do too bad. Andy Dalton, 17 completions on 162 yards with one passing touchdown. Alvin Kamara did his thing on the ground, which it's been a while since he's been doing that, but 19 rushes for 99 yards, and no touchdowns. They really couldn't get much through the air on the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals have a really good secondary. Defensively, they were able to get 3 sacks, 2 from Demario Davis, which were pretty good, and then 1 from Caden Ellis. But that was about it stats-wise for the Saints. But they did play really well. They just kind of gave up the lead near the end of the game, and the Bengals were able to win that one. Now, as for the Cardinals, I believe this is going to be the first game with D-Hop back. Don't quote me on that. I believe this is going to be the first game with D-Hop back, because I believe it was a 6-game suspension. So he should be coming back. I want to say he is coming back, so that'll be definitely a much needed addition, as well as them just today trading for Robbie Anderson from the Carolina Panthers. So big loss for the Panthers, in my opinion. But we'll talk about that later from the Panthers' perspective. But really big gain from the Cardinals. Definitely something that I feel like they needed, especially with the absence of D-Hop, and then as well as, I believe, Marquise Brown going down with a season-ending injury, I want to say. So, prayers up to him. Hopefully, he's good on his recovery process. But I believe his season is over, so they definitely did need to bring a wide receiver in. As for the return, I haven't seen much. As for what the Cardinals gave up, to the Panthers, but I know the Panthers were looking for for draft compensation. So there's a good chance that I believe the Cardinals may have traded away. Let me see here. So the Cardinals traded away a 2024 6th round pick and a 2025 7th rounder, which I feel like, is pretty good. For what the Cardinals have to give up for such a good wide receiver. And it's about the same, I want to say, or it was a little bit more for Marquise Brown coming from the Ravens to the Cardinals. So the Cardinals making some pretty good trades so far this season, bringing in a much needed position at wide receiver, especially since, again, Marquise Brown got hurt. The Cardinals did not do too well against the Seahawks. Kyler Murray vocalized his frustrations on, what will happen during the game. But he did have 23 completions for 222 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, and was sacked a whopping 6 times. But Kyler Murray was doing his thing on the ground too. 10 rushes for 100 yards. He was going off. Zach Ertz did his thing through the air, 70 yards, 7 receptions. Marquise Brown, before he got hurt, had 68 yards and 5 receptions. So he was definitely doing his thing there. And then defensively, the defense was able to get 5 sacks. They had 2 from Collins, 1 from Golden, another one from Thomas, and another one from Sanders. And then they weren't really able to force that many turnovers. They got 1 fumble recovery on the defense, but that was about it. They just were really outmatched. They really couldn't score a touchdown. The Seahawks red zone defense is great, and I guess overall their defense is just great. And it was really hard for the Cardinals to really advance the ball, in order to get a touchdown. So, the Cardinals were not able to score a touchdown against the Seahawks defense, which their Seahawks defense hasn't been the best. So, that does speak for itself. Them just not being able to get a touchdown against one of the worst defenses, or, not one of the worst, but one of the, bottom tier defenses in the league as of right now. But as for this game, I do think it's going to be pretty close. I do think it's going to be a 1-score game. But give me the Saints by 5. I think overall they're just the better team. And they're a little bit more complete. But we do have to see what it will be like with Robbie Anderson in a new scheme and DeAndre Hopkins in a new scheme. Or not a new scheme, but DeAndre Hopkins being back. Now next up, I have the Packers at the Commanders. No, the Packers. Coming off of a somewhat surprising loss to the Jets. See, me, the genius that I am, predicted the Jets to beat the Packers, okay? You could see the post, not altered. The Jets beat the Packers, right? I had that. That's my prediction. 7-point underdogs. I had the Jets winning that one. And they just came out swinging, okay? Zach Wilson did decent, 10 completions for 110 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, sacked twice. Breece Hall is looking like a very good running back, okay? Looks like an ex-prodigy running back. 116 yards on 20 rushes for a touchdown. Receiving-wise to the air, Corey Davis had most of the yards, 52 yards on 2 receptions. And that defense. The defense probably played the best. 4 sacks in total, 2 from Quinton Williams, 1 from Franklin Myers, and 1 from Sheldon Rankins. And then I believe they got a blocked punt return for a touchdown. And I don't think they had a pick 6, but they had really good defense. That entire game was pretty crazy. The Packers lined up for a field goal. Jets blocked it. Jets go for a punt. Packers block it. I think the Packers did capitalize on that with a field goal. I want to say. And then the Packers try to punt it. Jets punt it. They return it for a touchdown. And the Jets defense was just pretty locked down on the Packers, and Packers really could not do much, surprisingly. So there is a bright future there in New York, both for the Giants and Jets. So I can't wait to see what more they're gonna do this season. But yeah, the Packers. Packers doing. I mean, they were trying to do their thing. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was trying his hardest. The guy had 26 completions, 246 yards, one passing touchdown, but he was sacked 4 times. Nothing really could come off the ground. Robert Tonyan was doing his thing. Of course, I had him on my bench in fantasy football. 90 yards for 10 receptions. Alan Lazard, 76 yards, 4 receptions, and a touchdown. Defensively, they were able to get 2 sacks. One from Sean Gary and then one from Anagbare. But they weren't really able to turn the ball over besides that blocked punt. But yeah, just overall, the Packers really weren't capitalizing on the opportunities that they had, which in turn led them to lose this one. And looking at the Commanders, now they're coming off of a pretty big win, I guess uneventful win over the Chicago Bears. Does look like Carson Wentz is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, so Taylor Heineke will be taking that position from now on, up until once Carson Wentz does return. But Carson Wentz in this game had 12 completions for 99 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but was sacked 3 times. Brian Robinson, second game coming back from the shooting accident, 60 yards on 17 rushes and 1 touchdown. They really just could not get anything through the air. And of course I had Carson Wentz as one of my starting quarterbacks in the league, and put up 5 points. But they were able to sack Justin Fields about 5 or 6 times. One from Curl, one from Jonathan Allen, one from Sweat, and one from Obata, and then one from DeMarcus Payne. So 5. They were able to get 5 sacks on Justin Fields, and then also 1 interception from Jonathan Allen. So he had a sack and an interception. So he was doing his thing. And the Commanders' defense was definitely carrying. I think it was more of a defensive battle up until near the end where Brian Robinson got that touchdown. Because other than that, I mean, it was a pretty boring, bad game. Pretty slow pace. Nothing much really happened in that one. But as for this one, I do think the Packers really need a comeback game, especially with Carson Wentz hurt on the Commanders. And I think the Packers, they definitely need a comeback game. They need a statement, to bring them back into the winning mood. Okay, I mean, I don't know what's happening there in Green Bay, but they're currently second in the NFC North behind the Vikings, I believe, and it just has not been looking good. So I think here I'm going to have to go with the Packers by 1. I think they definitely need a statement game, and, something to bring them back on track. So I feel like it's best here to give this one against the Commanders here to the Packers. Okay, next up I have the Browns at the Ravens, an AFC North matchup. Really important here. The Ravens currently are ranked first in the AFC North, and the Browns are currently ranked 3rd in the AFC North. Now the Ravens coming off of a surprising loss to the Giants, very close, but a really crucial pick thrown late in the game by Lamar Jackson definitely did not help them there. And definitely allowed the Giants to win that one. Lamar Jackson, 17 completions, 210 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 1 interception, and was sacked only twice. Kenyon Drake was doing his thing through the ground as well, 119 yards on 10 rushes and a touchdown. Through the air, they were getting it done. Mark Andrews, 106 yards, 7 receptions, and a touchdown. But defensively, they were able to get 4 sacks, 1 from Queen, 1 from Jones, 1 from Madubuike, and 1 from Campbell. And they weren't really able to turn the ball over much. It was just really that crucial pick near the end of the game by Lamar Jackson that really hurt the Ravens there in that game. It just was not a great pass. And that's what kind of led them to lose there. And then going to the Browns, I mean, they absolutely got destroyed by the Patriots. Just it's not looking too good now. Not going to the middle of the season where, I was hyping up Jacoby Brissett, but it just has not been looking too good for him. Jacoby Brissett had 21 completions on 266 yards, a passing touchdown, 2 interceptions, and was sacked 4 times. Nick Chubb also surprisingly didn't do too hot, I want to say. He only had actually, let me see here. Oh, sorry. That is the wrong one. Okay, here. Against the Patriots, I mean, he only got 56 yards on 12 rushes. Donovan Peoples-Jones doing his thing, though. 74 yards on 4 receptions. David Njoku, 58 yards on 3 receptions. Defensively, they were only able to get 2 sacks, 2 from Myles Garrett, which propelled them to be the leading sack, or the sack leader in Browns franchise history, which is great. And they weren't really able to turn the ball over. I mean, the Patriots just were playing a pretty perfect game against the Browns, and they really could not respond. And that's what led to them losing this game. But as for this one, I think it's going to be a really important in-divisional game. But as for this, I'm going to have to give it to the Ravens by 1. I think they definitely need, kind of like the Packers, they definitely need a statement game, to get him back out there. Sorry. I mean, he just has not looked good, or, I mean, the team just has not looked good. And they're just blowing the leads really late into the game. And they're just not being able to hold on to them. So I think the Ravens can definitely get one here. It's definitely a really important game that they need to win. And, again, just give me the Ravens by 1. Okay, next up, I have the Buccaneers at the Panthers. Another in-divisional game here for the NFC South. Now, the Buccaneers, coming off of a surprising loss to the Steelers, okay? It was not good. Tom Brady yelling at players on the sideline, mainly his offensive line. And he was only sacked twice. That's the thing. He's only sacked twice. He's out here yelling at his offensive lineman. He has 25 completions for 243 yards, a touchdown, and again, it was only sacked twice. Leonard Fournette was doing his thing, 63 yards on 21 rushes. And, I mean, through the air, Chris Godwin was doing his thing, 95 yards on 6 receptions. Looking at the defense, they're only able to get to Kenny Pickett twice, one from Antoine Winfield, and then one from Carl Nassib. And then they weren't really able to turn the ball over, which I feel like, is probably a necessity to really beat the Steelers because Kenny Pickett, but Kenny Pickett was out during this game. I believe he left with a concussion, I want to say. So they did put in Mitch Trubisky. And they weren't really able to force anything on him either. But yeah, just overall, just not the best performance by the Buccaneers offensively they were doing their thing, but defensively they really couldn't get much done, and I think that's what really led to why the Buccaneers lost this one. It's just their defense really underperformed and was not able to get it done. And then as for the Panthers, they're coming off a loss to the Rams. And it looks like they're still open to calls for Christian McCaffrey this week. They did just deal Robbie Anderson, like I talked about earlier on in the episode. We'll have to see how that really affects them, especially now. I believe they're still running with P.J. Walker as the starting quarterback. Unless Sam Darnold does come back in. Because I highly doubt Baker Mayfield's going to be back in this week. So we'll have to see what they do there, but the Panthers just not looking too good right now. It looks like they're gonna go into a full rebuild mode now with their interim head coach. PJ Walker had 10 completions for 60 yards. Definitely not starting quarterback stats there. He was sacked twice. Christian McCaffrey had 69 yards on 13 rushes. And Christian McCaffrey also had 89 receiving yards on 7 receptions. Yeah, because they started with PJ Tucker, or not PJ Tucker, PJ Walker, for most of the game, and then they put in Jacob Eason, I believe is the he was a rookie last year, I want to say. They put him in there, and he had 59 yards on 3 completions, and 1 interception. And it overall just was not a really good game offensively from them, and defensively. The Panthers were only really able to get 1 sack and 1 interception by Dante Jackson, but he is now injured with an ankle injury, so that's definitely a big hit to the Panthers defense. And it just was a terrible game played by the Panthers. They really couldn't do much. But as for this game, I'm going to have to go to the Buccaneers by 3. I think the Steelers game might have just been a fluke. Maybe the team just turned on Tom Brady because he was yelling at them, and, during the game, so they didn't really know how to react. But the Steelers almost blew the lead there near the end, to barely win by 2. So I feel like it may have just been a fluke, may have just been a lucky game. So I think the Buccaneers here are just going to win. I have the Buccaneers win by 3 here. I think it may be a little bit close, but since it is a divisional matchup, but again, I just feel like the Buccaneers are a better team, and that loss to the Steelers may have just been, a little mistake, little mental mistakes that led to that loss. Now, next up, I have the Falcons at the Bengals. Now, the Falcons coming off of a pretty good win against the 49ers. Marcus Mariota had 13 completions out of 14 attempts and 129 yards with 2 passing touchdowns, and was only sacked twice. Caleb Huntley was doing his thing on the ground, 59 yards on 16 receptions or 16 rushes. Tyler Allegier, 51 yards on 15 attempts. And then Marcus Mariota had 50 yards on 6 rushes. So they're definitely making up with what they have, and also a rushing touchdown as well. They're definitely making up for what what they're lacking here on defense or on offense, which is Cordell Patterson, who is injured and is out for this one. And they definitely ran the ball, and they really distributed it well, in my opinion. And then through the air, they had 58 yards on 4 receptions for Olamide Zacchaeus. So he was doing his thing there. Defensively, they really could not get to the quarterback, but they did have 2 interceptions, which were definitely crucial. One from Jalen Hawkins, and then another one from Isaiah Oliver, and those 2 were really crucial in them winning. They were really able to, take advantage of the opportunities that they had. And then going to the Bengals side of the ball, they barely squeak out a win to the Saints, winning that one pretty late. Joe Burrow had 28 completions for 300 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and was sacked 3 times. Rushing-wise, they really couldn't get anything on the ground, but Jamar Chase was doing his thing through the air, 132 yards on 7 receptions and 2 touchdowns, and Tyler Boyd had 66 yards on 6 receptions. And then defensively, they really only to get 1 sack, and then they really weren't able to really force any turnovers. I think it just came out to the end, where they got a couple stops, and the Bengals really capitalized on that, especially Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, and they definitely did their thing in that one. But as for this game, I do have the Falcons winning by 1 here. I think they can definitely squeak out a win. I think they have some things to work on defensively, but I don't think they're too major. I think the Falcons look like a pretty good team, and the Bengals have had some lapses here, so I'm not sure, but I feel like this one could go anyway. But give me the Falcons here by 1. Then next up, I have the Lions and Cowboys. Now, the Lions coming back from a bye week, a much-needed bye week. Like, basically half the team is injured already, so definitely a much-needed bye week, get everybody healthy. and ready for this Cowboys game. Just really not much to say there. Most likely, Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift are going to be back for this game. And basically, most of the wide receivers, a lot of defensive players that they're missing right now that were really good at the beginning of the season. And then, Jameson Williams looks like he's still not going to be coming back, but until really late into the season by week 8. So give it a couple more weeks. So most likely I would see him in the game against the Dolphins. But I don't see, or maybe possibly next week. I mean, since I'm going over week 7, he could be in week 8, or a little bit later. But yeah, definitely a needed target for Jared Goff, in my opinion. So can't wait to see him out there on the field. But yeah, definitely big health news for the Lions coming off of this bye week. And then as for the Cowboys, they're coming off of a loss to the Eagles in division matchup. And most likely is going to be the last game that we see from Cooper Rush unless Dak Prescott does get re-injured, which I'm not hoping for that. But it looks like Dak Prescott is medically cleared by the doctors to play. And it does look like they most likely will be starting him for this one. But Cooper Rush, I mean, he did okay against the Eagles. 18 completions for 181 yards and 1 passing touchdown along with 3 interceptions. So that was definitely big. It was a turnover machine there against the Eagles last night. And then Ezekiel Elliott had 81 yards on 13 rushes and a touchdown. Yeah, he's definitely coming back a little bit, slowly but surely. He's definitely coming back. CeeDee Lamb was doing his thing, 68 yards on 5 receptions. But that was really about it. Receiving wise, I mean, the defense got about 4 sacks on Jalen Hurts, 1 from Dante Fowler, 1 from Wilson, 1 from Golston, and 1 from Armstrong. But they really weren't able to turn the ball over. And yeah, just offensively, they just were not clicking. There were a lot of, miscommunications, and, Cooper Rush was throwing, 3 interceptions, which were really crucial. And it definitely led to how the Eagles won this one. But as for this game, I do have the Lions winning this one. They're coming back from a bye week, much needed. They're coming off of a pretty bad losing streak. I do want to say, 3 straight games? Or no, 3 straight games. Of losing. They lost to the Vikings, lost to the Seahawks, and lost to the Patriots. So, and it was a pretty humbling loss, I feel, against the Patriots for that team. For the Lions, it just, you go, had the lead against the Vikings and you blew it, okay, and then you were basically, a scoring matchup, against a shootout basically against the Seahawks near the end of that one, and then you just absolutely get pummeled by the Patriots. Don't even get any points on the board. I think that's definitely a humbling experience for the offense. More than the defense. I mean, the defense just has not been good whatsoever. But the offense definitely needed, I guess, something to really show that, they're not that good, and you have to, do a little bit more. And definitely players coming back healthy is a first step towards that. And, Dak Prescott coming back may lend to, a little bit of miscommunication for the Cowboys. But I feel like overall the Lions definitely can get it done. It's just whether or not, that defense can really play, and if they can really stop the Cowboys. Now, next up, I have the Giants at the Jaguars. Now, the Giants coming off of a surprising win against the Ravens. That interception near the end of the game was pretty good. Got them into scoring position. And I believe Saquon Barkley punched it in for the touchdown to give them the lead, and then Kayvon Thibodeau came up strip sack on Lamar Jackson to ice the game for the Giants. Daniel Jones doing his thing, 19 completions, 173 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and was sacked 4 times. Saquon Barkley had 83 yards on 22 rushes and a touchdown. But yeah, again, they really could not do much through the air. Daniel Jones just isn't that good of a quarterback, in my opinion. So, I feel like he's not really contributing that much to the team. But yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau, again, had that sack. And then as well as Dexter Lawrence had the sack there. And then also, Julian Love's interception near the end of the game definitely helped ice that one for the Giants to win. And it definitely looks like they're on a roll. A lot of people saying that they could be a good team. I don't really I don't want to say that I'm being tricked into thinking that the Giants are a good team, but they are still looking like a really great team. And they've beaten the Giants, or not Giants, but they've beaten the Packers and they've beaten the Ravens. So those are two really good teams, and I think that definitely says a lot there for the Giants. But as for the Jaguars, they're coming off of a disappointing loss to the Colts, allowing a touchdown really late in the game for the Colts to win it. Trevor Lawrence had a pretty good game. He had 20 completions on 22 attempts, 163 yards, and a touchdown, but he was sacked 4 times. Travis Etienne did his thing, 86 yards on 10 rushes. And Jermichael Hasty, he was doing his thing on the ground as well, 57 yards, 3 rushes, and a touchdown. And then James Robinson was also doing his thing in the rushing game, 54 yards, 12 carries. But that was about it there. And through the air, they really couldn't do much. Defensively, couldn't do much either. I think they just need to really improve on their passing game. I don't know, the weapons seem okay for Trevor Lawrence, but it just doesn't really look like it's adding up too well. And then defensively, they're just not able to do much there against the Colts, especially on that last drive for the touchdown. It wasn't really the best defense, and the Colts were able to score in that one. But as for this game, I think it is going to be close, but I do think the Jaguars definitely need a wake-up game, losing back-to-back games against not-so-great teams. I think they definitely need a wake-up game, and this one would definitely put out the statement for them. So, as for this one, give me the Jaguars by 2. I think it's going to be really close because the Giants do look like a great team. But I feel like the Jaguars, maybe they can, do something to mess the Giants up a little bit. And they do have home field advantage, so this one can definitely play into that. But again, give me the Jaguars by 2. Now, next up, I have the Colts at the Titans. Now, the Colts, again, I was just talking about it. This one is a very big division game here. This one could be playing for first in the AFC South, which is funny because I was talking about how these two, this matchup could, even before the season started, this could end up seeing who gets the first spot in the AFC South. But as for the Colts, again, getting that game-winning touchdown against the Jaguars, definitely did their thing there. Matt Ryan had 42 completions for 389 yards and 3 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and was sacked 0 times. And I was talking about this earlier in previous weeks that the offensive line has not been playing that good, and they definitely played really great in this one. And then they weren't able to get much off the ground, but through the air they were able to get him. Pittman, 134 yards, 13 receptions. Dante Jackson was doing his thing. I had to go up against him in fantasy, 79 yards on 10 receptions. Paris Campbell, 57 yards on 7 receptions and a touchdown. And then Alec Pierce, again, that game-winning touchdown, had 49 yards on 3 receptions for a touchdown. And then defensively, they were able to get to Trevor Lawrence 4 times. Definitely big there. DeForest Buckner leading that defense with 1 sack as well. They weren't able to really get any turnovers, but those sacks definitely did help. Great defensive performance by the Jaguars, or by the Colts. And then great performance by the air by both Matt Ryan and the receiving corps there in Indianapolis. It was a great showing there. And they definitely deserve that win there pretty late into the game. And then as for the Titans, coming off of a bye week, just getting healthy, just not really much to report there. But they're definitely just working to be healthy on that one and be ready for this game. But as for this one, coming off of a bye week, I'm going to have to give the win to the Titans here. I think they're just a better team. The Colts did struggle against a Jaguars defense that didn't do much. So, again, here, I feel like Titans have a better defense than the Jaguars. And for that reason, give me the Titans winning here by 2. And then next up, we have the Texans at the Raiders. Now, the Texans, coming off of bye week, off of a pretty good win against the Jaguars, just trying to get healthy again like most teams in the bye week, doing their thing. And then going up against another team coming from bye week, who definitely needs to get a little bit healthier, because Darren Waller was out the week previous to, with an injury to the Chiefs, and he didn't really play, or he didn't even play in that game at all. I mean, he played like 1 to 2 snaps, they had him out for that one. Didn't look great, just questionable coaching decisions against the Chiefs there. But the Raiders going into bye week, and maybe they can get healthy, clear their minds. So both of these teams come from bye week. But as for this one, give me the Raiders here by 8. I think it'll be close, but I think the Raiders definitely have a better team than the Texans, and I think the Texans defense is a little bit, lackluster there, especially in the secondary. But Derek Stingley's been doing his thing. We'll have to see that matchup, Devontae Adams on Derek Stingley. I think that'll be a great matchup to see. But as for this one, again, just give me the Raiders by 8. Now, next up, we have the Jets at the Broncos. Now, the Jets coming off of a great win against the Packers, one that I predicted, to move them to a 4-2 record, second in the AFC East, behind, I want to say, the Bills. Right, Bills? Yeah, Bills, because there's nobody else in that division. I don't think that's actually that good. I want to say the Bills. Am I trying? Yeah, Bills. So they're behind the Bills there, with a 5-1 record, or 5-2 record. Sorry, and I believe they're gonna be 5-2. But anyway, Zach Wilson again did his thing. I think this team just is great, defensively and offensively. They're just clicking on both sides of the ball, and able to get it done against one of the better teams in the league at in their home field. Definitely a great showing by the Jets there. And then as for the Broncos, again, this game is currently underway. While I am recording this, they are up 10-0 currently against the Chargers. So I'll have to see how that one ends. But the Broncos just haven't looked the best over time. They've been a little bit they've been a little bit a lot of people just roasting Russell Wilson as of right now. But as for this one, give me the Jets by 9. I think they're definitely a better team than the Broncos, and they can definitely get it done against them. I think the Jets are really showing a really good team here. Again, both offensively and defensively, I think they can overpower a lot of teams in the league, especially with back-to-back wins against the Packers and Dolphins. So, that one's going to be interesting to see. But again, give me the Jets here. Then next up, we have a pretty good game here. The Chiefs going up against the 49ers. Now, the Chiefs coming up against a surprising win that Tony Romo predicted. Exactly, I think Tony Romo said was going to be a 24-20 type game, and it ended 24-20, just not in the Chiefs' favor. They played really good throughout. Again, it was just back and forth game, something that I expected from both teams. Patrick Mahomes had 25 completions for 338 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions though, and 3 sacks. They really couldn't get anything off the ground. That Bills defense is really good, but Juju Smith-Schuster, 5 receptions for 113 yards and a touchdown. Travis Kelce also had 108 yards on 8 receptions. He was doing his thing. The Chiefs defense was only able to get 1 sack from Chris Jones and no interceptions, and I think that's something they really could not contain Josh Allen in that pocket, and Josh Allen was flourishing. So I feel like it is going to be definitely tough to go up against him. So again, as for this one, give me the that one was a good one. I don't know why I was doing summary of the game. I hadn't even talked about the 49ers yet. But the 49ers coming off of a loss to the Falcons. Brandon Ayuk had a game though. He had 2 touchdowns. There were only 2 touchdowns of the game for the 49ers. And Jimmy Garoppolo, 29 completions, 296 yards, 2 passing touchdowns with 2 interceptions. Definitely crucial, those 2 interceptions. really could not get anything off of the ground. George Kittle had 83 yards on 8 receptions, and Brandon Ayuk also had 83 yards on 8 receptions, along with the 2 touchdowns I talked about earlier. And then Deebo Samuel had 79 yards on 7 receptions, but they really could not pass the ball. Like, they could not distribute the ball really well amongst the receiving core there. And then as for defense, I mean, they were able to get 2 sacks, one from Drake Jackson and then one from Charles Omenihu. And then they really weren't able to turn the ball over, which I think was crucial because, San Francisco had those 2 interceptions. So, they really weren't able to turn the ball over, and I think that's what's crucial. The defense just did not play well. I think their offense did okay, except for the rushing attack. But I mean, overall, the Falcons or the 49ers just weren't able to really play that well defensively against a okay Falcons offense. But as for this one, I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs here. I think the Chiefs just overall are a better team than the 49ers and can easily get the win here. Now, next up, we have the Seahawks at the Chargers. Now, the Seahawks coming off of a win against the Cardinals, a big in-division game there. Battle of the bottom of the NFC West. But Geno Smith did his thing, 20 completions for 197 yards. He was sacked 5 times. They definitely need to invest a little bit into that offensive line. But Kenneth Walker had 97 yards and 20 on 21 rushes and a touchdown. And they really couldn't get much to the ground either. It's been okay from Geno Smith, but I feel like he'd be a good, decent starting quarterback around the league, but yeah, just not the best performance. But the defense of the Seahawks definitely stepped up here. They had 6 sacks on Kyler Murray, and they also had interception by Tariq Woolen, who I think Tariq Woolen's going to be a great defensive back in the league. He's already shown, I believe, he already has 4 interceptions in his rookie year, so he's already looking great. And definitely that interception definitely clinched up the game there, and allowed the Seahawks to win. And again, the Chargers game is going on as right now. They're down 10-0. I'll have to see what that one does. But, the Chargers, they're still a great team. I think this one could really go either way. I did have a hard time picking this one. But as for this one, give me the Seahawks here. I think they can definitely squeeze out a win against the Chargers since they have looked a little subpar compared to what they looked like earlier on in the season. So, as for this one, just give me the Seahawks win this one. Okay, now as for Sunday Night Football, we have the Steelers at the Dolphins. Now, the Steelers coming off of a surprising win over the Buccaneers, winning by 2. Almost stroked away the game there, and it looks like Mitch Trubisky is going to be starting for this one, mainly because Kenny Pickett was out and is going to be out with a concussion. But Mitch Trubisky did his thing against a really good Buccaneers defense. 9 completions for 144 yards and a passing touchdown. Was only sacked once. Chase Claypool's doing his thing. 96 yards on 7 receptions and a touchdown. But that was really about it offensively. But defensively, they were able to get 2 sacks, 1 from Highsmith, 1 from Hayward, no interceptions. But Tom Brady is pretty good with ball security. So, Steelers, they did their thing. It was very surprising, but they definitely took the ground and pound approach, and really kind of grinded out the win. They almost choked it, but they were able to keep that lead there near the end of the game. And then as for the Dolphins, it just has not looked good for them. They're going up against the Vikings team. I believe Teddy Bridgewater actually did play in this game. I think in my preview I said that Teddy Bridgewater wasn't going to play. But they did start off with Skylar Thompson, but they just put in Teddy Bridgewater. I think he cleared concussion protocol, so they just put him in there. So he was mainly playing. Skylar Thompson had 7 completions for 89 yards, and was sacked once. So they put in Teddy Bridgewater. He had 23 completions for 329 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, along with 2 interceptions. And was also sacked 5 times. They really couldn't get anything off of the ground. The offensive line was not doing their thing. Tyreek Hill had 177 yards on 12 receptions. Jalen Waddle, 129 yards on 6 receptions. Mike Gesicki, 69 yards on 6 receptions. I mean, they were getting it done through the air, but the offensive line just could not block for them, and that's definitely something that led to them, having a little bit of an issue there in this one, because they still were able to keep it close. I mean, it was only an 8-point game, so it wasn't like really out of there. It wasn't like a blowout, but it just wasn't the best performance, especially defensively. They really could not do much to stop the Vikings, and the touchdown that kind of iced the game was the touchdown from Dalvin Cook near the end of the game, 54-yarder. Definitely iced the game for them there. But as for this one, give me the Dolphins here by 6. I think the Dolphins, they're slowly but surely getting back to being a little bit healthier, being at 100%, and I think that's something that they definitely need. And I think I think they are a better team. I think they have a better offense compared to the Steelers' defense. And Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill can definitely overpower the Steelers' secondary. So, again, here, just give me the Dolphins by 6. And then for the last matchup of the week on Monday Night Football, we have the Bears at the Patriots. Now, the Bears coming off of a tough loss to the Commanders. Just wasn't the best performance by the offensive line or defense. Justin Fields had 14 completions for 190 yards, a passing touchdown, and an interception, and he was sacked a whopping 5 times. And then Justin Fields also was a leading rusher with 88 yards on 12 rushes. Khalil Herbert also had 75 yards on 7 rushes, and David Montgomery had 67 yards on 15 rushes. They were getting it done on the ground, but just passing wise, they just were not giving Justin Fields enough time to pass. Dante Pettis was doing his thing, 84 yards with 4 receptions and a touchdown, the only touchdown for the Bears for this one. And Darnell Mooney had 68 yards on 7 receptions. He was doing his thing. Just not the best performance by him, and he could definitely do more. Defensively, they were able to get 3 sacks on Carson Wentz, but they just really could not force any turnover, and I think that's definitely what hurt them. Because the Bears gave up turnover, but the Commanders weren't able to, or the Bears defense wasn't able to force the turnover, so the Commanders came out with a win there. And then as for the Patriots, they're coming off of a destroying win over the Browns. The Patriots look really good as of right now. Bailey Zappi looks great. 24 completions, 309 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, was only sacked twice. Ramondre Stevenson, 76 yards, 19 rushes, and 2 touchdowns. Doing his thing there. Devontae Parker, 64 yards, 4 receptions. Jonnu Smith, who was questionable for this game but came back in, 61 yards, 2 receptions. Hunter Henry, 61 yards, 4 receptions, and a touchdown. Jacoby Myers, 60 yards, 4 receptions. Bailey Zappi is definitely getting this ball all over the place for his receiving core, and it's definitely showing out there on the field. Definitely hard to cover a quarterback that can really get to multiple people on the field. They're able to get 3 sacks on the day. Definitely great from the defense, and the 2 interceptions by the defense. One led by Jalen Mills, and it was kind of just she wrote from there. It was pretty dominating game by the Patriots against the Browns. But as for this one, give me the Patriots by 8. I think they're just overall the better team compared to the Bears. And definitely handle the Bears here on Monday Night Football. So again, just give me the Patriots here with the easy win. And that'll be all for today's episode. Thank you for listening or watching all the way through. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and make sure you leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And also leave the podcast a 5-star review or hit the follow button. That'll be greatly appreciated. But again, thank you for listening and watching all the way through. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.